ESPN's Adam Rubin with Armin and Levac on 104.5. The team just arrived to his hotel in Chicago. And Adam, as you look at what Daniel Murphy has accomplished so far this postseason, you've been around him. Is he giving us a show that we've never seen before in Mets history?
Most definitely, almost in Major League history. I mean, here's a guy who's never hit 5 home runs in a calendar month before this postseason. In fact, he had only homered on back-to-back days once in his Major League career during the regular season. He has homers in 4 straight games. Carlos Beltran has the Major League record, homering in 5 straight postseason games. So that was with the 2004 Astros right before he ended up getting that big contract with the Mets. So, I mean, clearly Daniel Murphy, who's more a singles, doubles, average type hitter, is doing something that's out of character for him and pretty extreme just on normal Major League standards.
Adam, it seems like as far back as I can remember, Daniel Murphy was on the trade block for the Mets. Has he moved himself off of that trade block? Is he going to be a Met going into next year with his new deal?
Yeah, he's a pending free agent after the year, and it certainly seems likely that he's going to be elsewhere next year. Dilson Herrera, the Mets prospect, who mostly was in AAA Las Vegas this year, has been deemed ready to start next year. So your middle infield, in all likelihood, next year is going to be some combination of Wilmer Flores and Dilson Herrera and Rubin Tejada. But Murphy's going to get a pretty big deal somewhere at this point, 4 or 5 years, at least $10 million a year. I've seen estimates as high as maybe like $15 million a year now. I don't think the Mets are going to go there. The one good thing about this performance during the postseason, if it does raise his free agent value a little bit, is that the Mets now may be able to offer him a qualifying offer, which I think is $15.8 million for this upcoming year, and maybe get a draft pick out of this, although I'm still not convinced they're going to do that because I suppose there's always a chance he says, okay, I'll come back for 1 year, $15.8 million.
Right, and they probably wouldn't want to do that. ESPN's Adam Rubin. Matt's up 2-0 against the Cubs. He's in Chicago. Game 3 of the NLCS tomorrow night. First pitch at 8:07. How much does Daniel Murphy's success offensively send a vibe through this whole team, even to the pitching staff during these games?
Well, I mean, it's absolutely remarkable just because of who the home runs have come against. I mean, twice against Clayton Kershaw, once against Zach Greinke, now against John Lester and Jake Arrieta. Those are some of the elite pitchers in the National League, and it's really been welcome in part because some of the other big offensive pieces aren't performing. David Wright was 1 for 19 and actually told Terry Collins, if you want to sit me on Sunday, you can sit me. Terry decided to play him, and David ends up having an RBI double in the first inning, but Lucas Duda has been very quiet. So the Mets pitching is the strength, but they need some bats to come through, and he's really the one that's given them just enough offense. So really, it's I mean, and it was so much easier for Noah Syndergaard to pitch yesterday with that 3-0 lead after 1 inning, so it helped relax him too. So it benefits everybody, obviously.
Adam, could the Mets draw this up any better than to beat Arrieta and Lester and then have DeGrom on the mound for Game 3?
No, I mean, what I wrote after the game last night is that, yeah, the Mets, other than Matt Harvey, in terms of name recognition, they don't have a Kershaw and a Greinke, they don't have an Arrieta, but they have extremely quality pitchers that are close in that, and they have so much more starting pitching depth than the teams they're facing. If you go back to the first round, here they are in Game 3. They have Matt Harvey going against Brett Anderson. This time they have Jacob deGrom in Game 3 going against Kyle Hendricks. And how deep are the Mets? You have Bartolo Colon doing a very good job in the bullpen, and John Neese has only faced 2 batters this postseason out of the bullpen, but he struck both of them out. So clearly the Mets, they're getting by against the aces of the other teams, and then they're flexing their muscle because they have such a large disparity in pitching advantage in the other games of the series. The first round, that Game 3, the game with Harvey and Hendricks, Harvey and Brett Anderson, that was a 13-7 Mets win.
Adam Rubin of ESPNNewYork.com. Has Matt Harvey won everyone back with the performance on Saturday night?
As long as he keeps taking the ball. Yeah, and that shouldn't be an issue. He said he's good to go for Game 5. I think the innings cap discussion is behind the Mets, and he's going to pitch twice around for the rest of however far they go, assuming they get to the World Series. Hopefully we'll see him again twice. But he's over 200 innings now. I know Scott Boras originally advocated not going over 180, but that seems behind us. So as long as he's taking the ball and performing, I think fans will forgive and forget. You know, he also missed that workout on the eve of the NLCS and fans were in an uproar. But now that he's taking the ball and pitching well, I think people are going to forgive.
What has it meant to this team to have Juris Familia be so dominant as the closer and what he's been able to accomplish?
He's been absolutely invaluable. One, he had 43 saves during the regular season, which tied the franchise record. Armando Benitez also had that total in 2001, and that comes after the Mets lost Henry Mejia, not lost, but Bobby Parnell really, really underperformed. So Familia wasn't necessarily going to be the closer this year. He might have been the third choice, and here he was doing such an exceptional job. The Mets bullpen was not as strong as the first half of the season leading into him, and he was really a savior. And then they get Clippard and they get Addison Reed, and things kind of stabilize in the second half of the season. And then in the playoffs, he already has 5 saves in the postseason, which is more than any closer in Mets history for their entire Mets careers, not just a single postseason. And you see how Terry's using him. Yesterday it was only 3 outs, but 6-out saves in that 6-out save in that division clincher, Game 5, and then the first game against the Cubs was a 4-out save or 5-out save. So I mean, they're clearly stretching him out, and he's been absolutely invaluable.
Games 3 and 4 in Chicago. What are the keys for the Mets to take those games down?
Well, I mean, the Cubs are going to be a little more fierce here, I would think. They got the crowd. It's a little bit warmer. It's not balmy, but it's a lot warmer than it was at Citi Field, so their bats will probably wake up a little bit. But I really think, one, just being able to flex their muscle in terms of having the starting pitching strength compared to the Cubs in Games 3 and Games 4 with DeGrom and then Matz going. Ideally, David Wright would get on track. As I mentioned, he was 1 for 19 before that single in the first inning, or double in the first inning of Game 2. So hopefully Lucas Duda for the Mets will get it going too. So, and then it looked like Clippard and Reed were finally back on track. I mentioned how important they were to acquire them in the second half, but throughout the last couple weeks of the season and then into the postseason, they had struggled. So if they could stabilize a little bit, the Mets are in very, very, very good shape. I mean, DeGrom, Hendricks in Game 3, I mean, you never know what's going to happen in a playoff game, but that's a clear-cut advantage for the Mets, and if they could go up 3-0, I mean, they're in incredible shape.
Adam Rubin of ESPNNewYork.com. Adam, if you have one reason as to what makes this team successful and has gotten them to this point, it's what?
Well, as I said, I mean, not to belabor, but the starting pitching depth is beyond anything else is what is the key. I mean, there's no let-up. All these guys, other than Colon, who's in the bullpen now, all these guys, the young studs in the rotation, the 4 primary guys, they all throw gas, and it just never lets up. So there's never a game where another team is like, all right, we have a reprieve today. So that's clearly the strength of the team. The hitting is far more competent now than it was the first half of the year when they were ranked 30th, 29th, 28th in virtually every category. So obviously, Cespedes helps. Everyone made such a big deal about the Mets going 0-7 against the Cubs during the regular season, but you have to remember David Wright and Travis d'Arnaud were injured and didn't play in any of those games. Cespedes hadn't been acquired yet. Not that Kelly Johnson was a factor in this series, but he hadn't been acquired yet. Matz had just been called up right before the second series against the Cubs, and he didn't appear in that series, so he never faced the Cubs in any of those 7 games. Clippard and Reed weren't here. Uribe wasn't here, who may end up in the World Series on the active roster. So, I mean, clearly it's a tremendously different Mets team now than it was to face the Cubs during the regular season.
Yeah, Adam, what do you make of the makeup and the build of this team, the chemistry in the clubhouse?
I mean, it's exceptional, and winning helps fuel that. But the Mets have done a good job over the last several years, the front office, of making sure they put quality guys in the clubhouse. Say what you want about Michael Kadyr's production, but he's a very, very good guy in the clubhouse. Bartolo Colon, particularly with the Hispanic players. Juris Familia credits him constantly. I mean, Juris yesterday brought him up 100 times again as a great mentor. Curtis Granderson, David Wright. There aren't a ton of veterans, at least before the trades, there weren't a ton of veterans on the Mets. There was a lot of younger guys, but the veterans on the team really are superb people too, and that's helped. I mean, the only really disruption this year was some of the Harvey drama, and that was more kind of a public drama with the fans reacting than anything that went on in the clubhouse. I'm sure fans weren't. I'm sure a lot of the players in the clubhouse weren't ecstatic when he took himself out after 5 innings against the Yankees on that Sunday night baseball game. But, I mean, other than little blips like that, this has been a tremendously tight clubhouse throughout the year.
ESPN's Adam Rubin. Read his stuff, ESPNNewYork.com, on Twitter, at Adam Rubin ESPN. It's the time of year where you should have his tweets going to your phone or you're doing it wrong. Adam, you just arrived in Chicago, just picked up the phone and called us. Appreciate you, man. Get some rest, and let's go. Game 3 tomorrow night. Enjoy Wrigley.
Excellent. Thanks so much.